In the heart of Ouagadougou, the bustling capital of Burkina Faso, President Ibrahim Traoré sat quietly in his office, surrounded by stacks of reports and documents. It was a typical day, but one filled with hope. He was reviewing the latest updates on a program close to his heart, the Dignity Through Self-Reliance initiative. This program wasn't just a policy. It had become a beacon of pride and independence for the people of Burkina Faso. It symbolized their refusal to remain dependent on outside aid and their determination to build a future on their own terms. For years, many African countries had struggled with reliance on foreign assistance, often tied with strings that compromised their dignity. But Ibrahim Traoré envisioned a different path where his nation could stand tall, rooted in its own strength, culture, and resolve. The success of this program was already inspiring neighboring countries to explore similar approaches, sparking a quiet revolution across the continent. Just as he was deep in thought, his assistant, Marie, entered the room with a sense of urgency. "Mr. President," she said, holding out a tablet, "Senator J.D. Vance from the United States made some comments about you during a live interview." Ibrahim looked up, curiosity flickering across his face. "What did he say?" Marie hesitated for a moment, then replied, "He called your policies naive and suggested that Africa needs the help of USAID to survive. He also said you're playing at being a leader while your people suffer." A calm but firm expression settled over Ibrahim's face. He took the tablet, pressed play, and watched the interview unfold. On screen, Senator Vance spoke confidently, his tone tinged with condescension as he dismissed the efforts of Ibrahim and his country. According to Vance, African nations could not thrive without Western support, and leaders like Traoré were misguided idealists whose populist policies risked collapse. Though the words stung, Ibrahim was not surprised. He knew that challenging the established global order would always invite criticism. With quiet resolve, he told Marie, "Prepare a press conference for tomorrow. It's time we respond." Marie nodded, already making plans. This was more than just a political moment. It was a test of dignity, determination, and the future of Burkina Faso. The next morning, the grand hall of the presidential palace was filled with a buzz of anticipation. Reporters from local and international media had gathered, eager to hear how President Ibrahim Traoré would address the recent criticism from Senator J.D. Vance. The tension in the room was palpable, but Traoré remained calm, his presence commanding respect. Dressed in traditional Burkina Faso attire, a vivid reminder of his roots and connection to the people he served, Traoré stepped up to the podium. He took a deep breath and began, his voice steady, but full of conviction. "Yesterday," he said, locking eyes with the crowd, "Senator J.D. Vance made comments about our national policies. He suggested that we need the help of USAID to survive." A hush fell over the room. Everyone waited for his response. "But let me be clear," Traoré continued. "Burkina Faso does not need charity. What we seek is respect." The journalists exchanged surprised glances at the president's composed demeanor. Traoré raised his hand for silence before explaining. "Our people have faced countless challenges over the centuries," he said, "and in every difficult moment, we have found ways to move forward. We are building our future not on foreign aid, but on our own strength, dignity, and determination." He then unveiled a bold new initiative called Africa is Not Charity. The program aimed to empower local communities to develop sustainable solutions, free from dependency on external intervention. "This is not just politics," Traoré said firmly. "It's a declaration that Africa can and will take care of itself. What we need is partnership built on respect, not paternalism." A wave of applause broke out among the local journalists, while some international reporters remained skeptical. A French correspondent raised a pointed question. "Mr. President, how will Burkina Faso implement these initiatives without outside resources? Isn't this approach risky?" Traoré smiled, unwavering. "Every choice involves risk," he replied. "But the greatest risk is accepting help that undermines our dignity. We believe in the potential of our people, and they will not disappoint us." As the press conference ended, the words of Ibrahim Traoré echoed beyond the palace walls, sparking debates worldwide about sovereignty, development, and the future of Africa. After the press conference, the energy inside Burkina Faso was electric. Ibrahim Traoré's message of dignity and self-reliance had struck a chord not only with his people, but with communities across the continent. While debates raged on social media and in international newsrooms, back in Ouagadougou, Traoré and his team were rolling up their sleeves to turn words into action. The Ministry of Agriculture took the lead, coordinating closely with local community leaders to identify the areas most in need. These were villages where families had struggled for generations with limited access to land, clean water, and education. Traoré believed that real change started from the ground up, with the people who lived the challenges every day. Marie, his trusted assistant and social worker, was at the heart of the operation. She organized logistics for distributing basic resources like clean water and electricity, ensuring that families had what they needed to rebuild their lives. From dawn till dusk, Marie and her team moved tirelessly between villages, coordinating efforts and listening to the voices of the people. At one community meeting, Traoré stood among farmers, artisans, and teachers. He listened intently as they shared their struggles and their hopes. He reminded them, "This program is about more than just crops or infrastructure. It's about rebuilding our dignity and showing the world what we are capable of." The early signs were promising. Farmers who once barely produced enough to survive were now growing surpluses they could sell. Schools reopened as families could afford supplies, and young people began dreaming of a future shaped by their own hands. Meanwhile, the hashtag number Respect for Africa started trending on social media, alongside number Leadership with Dignity. Voices from around the world amplified Traoré's vision, celebrating the spirit of independence and resilience. But the path was not without challenges. Some international observers remained skeptical, doubting whether Burkina Faso's self-reliance model could sustain itself without external aid. Yet, Traoré stayed focused. He knew transformation was a process, one that required patience, commitment, and above all, belief in his people. During a team meeting, Traoré smiled and said, "We're just getting started. This change is not only economic, it's social, cultural, and most importantly, human. Together, we are rewriting the story of Africa's future." As his words spread, a growing number of people began to see Burkina Faso not as a nation waiting for charity, but as a beacon of hope, dignity, and self-determination. As the Africa is Not Charity program began to take root, its impact was visible not just in numbers, but in the lives it touched. One of the most powerful moments came during a visit to a small rural village where President Ibrahim Traoré met Awa, a woman who had once struggled to feed her children. Now, thanks to the land reform and training programs, she was teaching carpentry skills to other women in her community. With a smile full of hope and pride, AWA shared her story with a local broadcaster. "Before this program," she said, "I could barely provide for my family, but now I'm helping other women build a better future. It's all because of President Traoré's vision and support." This scene quickly spread across social media, reinforcing Traoré's image as a leader truly connected to his people. Hashtags like number Respect for Africa and number Leadership with Dignity began trending, celebrating policies that centered on empowering local communities rather than relying on foreign aid. Behind the scenes, Traoré's team worked tirelessly to expand the program's reach. The Minister of Agriculture partnered with local universities to provide technical training and modern farming techniques to rural farmers. Marie, the president's trusted assistant, coordinated efforts to ensure that families had access to clean water and electricity, basic resources vital to lifting communities out of poverty. At a team meeting, Traoré expressed both pride and determination. "We're just getting started," he said. "The changes we see are more than economic. They're social, cultural, and deeply human. This is about restoring dignity and hope." Journalists covering the story began to see Burkina Faso as a symbol of a new kind of African future, one that honored history, respected its heroes, and built bridges of dignity for all its people. One reporter wrote in his notebook, "Today, I witnessed a country reclaiming its story and shaping its destiny with strength and grace." Meanwhile, across the Atlantic, Senator J.D. Vance watched the unfolding progress with growing unease. Videos of flourishing farms, thriving schools, and innovative local solutions challenged his earlier criticism. In subsequent interviews, Vance acknowledged that he might have underestimated Traoré's vision, even while he maintained that responsible foreign assistance still had a role to play. Back in Burkina Faso, Traoré remained focused on his mission. For him, it was never just about politics. It was a personal commitment to his people, a promise to honor their resilience and capacity for greatness without sacrificing their dignity. As the months passed, Burkina Faso's transformation under the Africa is Not Charity initiative grew stronger and more visible. Villages once struggling to survive were now buzzing with new life. Farmers were harvesting more than they needed, selling surpluses at markets, and dreaming bigger than ever before. President Ibrahim Traoré made regular visits to these communities, not as a distant leader, but as someone genuinely connected to the people he served. During one such visit, he met Fatou, a young farmer who had benefited directly from the program. She was working alongside other women, carefully tending to crops and applying the modern techniques they had learned. "Mr. President," she said warmly, wiping the dirt from her hands, "things are going very well. Thanks to this program, we can plant more and learn new skills every day. My mother would be so proud." Traoré smiled, deeply moved. He knew that this was the real success, transforming lives and honoring the legacy of those who came before. It wasn't just about policies or statistics. It was about people reclaiming their dignity. Meanwhile, across the ocean, Senator J.D. Vance kept a close eye on the progress unfolding in Burkina Faso. In a live interview, he was asked if he still considered Traoré's policies naive given their apparent success. Vance hesitated, then acknowledged that he might have underestimated the impact of the president's vision. "I admit, I didn't fully see the potential here," Vance said. "But I still believe that outside assistance, when used wisely, can complement local efforts." His statement stirred mixed reactions. Some praised his willingness to acknowledge valid points, while others criticized his continued emphasis on foreign aid. Back home, Traoré remained undeterred. His focus was on the message of dignity and self-sufficiency. During another visit to a small village, he met a young girl named AWA, who was teaching carpentry to other women. She shared how, before the program, she struggled to provide for her children. Now, empowered by new skills and opportunities, she was helping others build a better future. This story spread quickly on social media, further cementing Traoré's reputation as a visionary leader dedicated to empowering his people. Behind the scenes, efforts continued to expand the program's reach. Partnerships with local universities provided farmers with technical training, while access to clean water and electricity improved living conditions. "We're just beginning," Traoré told his team. "This change is not only economic, it's social, cultural, and deeply human." Observers around the world watched Burkina Faso's journey with admiration, seeing in it a model of hope and true leadership. Burkina Faso's journey towards self-reliance and dignity continued to inspire hope far beyond its borders. The Africa is Not Charity program was no longer just a policy, it was becoming a movement, changing lives one community at a time. During one of his regular visits to rural villages, President Ibrahim Traoré met a young girl named Madou. She shyly held out a brand new school notebook, her eyes shining with excitement. "Mr. President," she said softly, "this is for you. I want you to know that we are using the resources you helped provide to learn and grow." Traoré smiled warmly, touched by the gesture. It was moments like this that reminded him why the journey mattered so much, not just for the statistics or the headlines, but for the children and families whose futures were being rewritten. Behind the scenes, Traoré's team worked tirelessly to support families with access to basic necessities like clean water and electricity. The Ministry of Agriculture partnered with local universities, creating training programs that empowered farmers with modern techniques and knowledge, turning subsistence farming into thriving businesses. Meanwhile, the story of Burkina Faso's transformation caught the attention of journalists and social media users worldwide. Hashtags like #Respect for Africa and #Leadership with Dignity trended across platforms, sparking conversations about the power of local solutions and the importance of self-respect in development. In the United States, Senator J.D. Vance continued to observe these developments. Though initially skeptical, he acknowledged during a live interview that the progress in Burkina Faso was real and impressive. "President Traoré is showing that Africa can chart its own course," Vance admitted. "It's a powerful reminder that dignity and determination can change destinies." Back home, Traoré remained focused on the heart of the mission, the people. During a visit to a community center, he met Fatou once again, the young farmer who had become a beacon of hope for many women. She shared stories of how the program had lifted not only her family, but also her entire village. "It's about more than food or money," Fatou explained. "It's about respect, opportunity, and the chance to build something lasting." As Traoré listened, he knew that this was the true legacy of Africa is not charity. It was a story of empowerment, resilience, and the enduring spirit of a people determined to define their own future. The journey was far from over, but with every step, Burkina Faso was proving that dignity and self-reliance could reshape a nation and inspire the world. As the months turned into a year, Burkina Faso's Africa is Not Charity program blossomed into a powerful symbol of hope and resilience. The country's success caught the attention of the world, and people began to see a different Africaone, defined by dignity, self-reliance, and authentic leadership. One of the most memorable moments came during a special ceremony held in the heart of Ouagadougou. Hundreds gathered: farmers, children returning to school, teachers, and even international journalists who had followed the journey from the start. The air was filled with celebration and pride. President Ibrahim Traoré took the stage, dressed simply in traditional Burkina Faso clothing. His eyes scanned the crowd, filled with the faces of people whose lives had been transformed. His voice was thick with emotion as he spoke. "Today," he said, "we are not here just to celebrate numbers or policies. We are here to honor the hands and minds that built this country. You are the true pillars of Burkina Faso." The crowd erupted in applause, some wiping away tears. Then, Traoré invited Fatou, the young farmer who had become a symbol of hope, to speak. Her voice trembled but was strong. "Mr. President," she said, "you have given us back something we thought was lost forever: our dignity. More importantly, you have shown us that we can inspire generations to come." The audience responded with a heartfelt standing ovation. Traoré embraced Fatou warmly, knowing this was more than a ceremony. It was a testament to gratitude, leadership, and the power of belief. At the end of the event, a small child approached the president, offering him a carefully restored old book that had belonged to Fatou's mother. Inside was a simple phrase: "Knowledge is the greatest inheritance we can leave." Traoré smiled, knowing this gift was a reminder that every act of kindness and every step towards self-reliance could ripple through generations. As the crowd began to disperse, Traoré bent down to talk with a young girl clutching a new notebook. "How are you adjusting to school?" he asked gently. She looked up shyly, then replied with a bright smile. "I'm learning a lot, Mr. President. I want to be a teacher when I grow up." Watching this moment, a journalist wrote in his notebook, "Today, in Burkina Faso, I saw the future of Africaone that values its history, honors its heroes, and builds bridges of dignity for all. This story was more than a political success. It was a global symbol of hope, proving that with respect, leadership, and community, transformation was possible. In the months following the grand celebration, Burkina Faso's story spread like wildfire. The Africa is Not charity initiative had become a beacon not just for its own people, but for the entire continent and beyond. Farmers who once depended on foreign aid were now exporting their surplus crops to neighboring countries. Young scientists and innovators, inspired by the resources and training provided, were developing homegrown solutions that addressed local challenges with creativity and pride. President Ibrahim Traoré remained deeply involved in every step of this transformation. His visits to rural communities were more frequent than ever, not as a distant figurehead, but as a leader walking alongside his people. He believed true leadership meant understanding the daily struggles and victories of ordinary citizens. One such visit brought him to a small village where families were celebrating the reopening of their local school. Children who had been out of classrooms for years due to lack of resources were now back, excited to learn and dream about their futures. Teachers were receiving new training, and classrooms were equipped with supplies made possible through the program's support. Traoré stood before the gathered crowd and spoke from the heart. This is the future we dreamed of, a future built on the strength of our people, their knowledge, and their dignity. We are proving that Africa's story is one of resilience and hope. Meanwhile, journalists from around the world documented the progress, painting a picture of a nation, rewriting its narrative. Stories circulated on social media using hashtags like #Self-Reliant Africa and #Dignity First, inspiring conversations about sustainable development rooted in respect for culture and history. Back in the United States, even critics began to take note. Senator J.D. Vance, who had once questioned Traoré's approach, publicly acknowledged the impressive strides made by Burkina Faso. What we are seeing here, he admitted during a televised interview, is a powerful example of what can happen when communities are given the tools to succeed on their own terms. Despite the growing international attention, Traoré stayed focused on his mission. He knew that change was not instantaneous and that challenges would continue. But with every new success story from farmers to students to local entrepreneurs, the vision of a dignified, self-sufficient Africa grew stronger. As the sun set over Ouagadougou, Traoré reflected on the journey. It wasn't just a political victory. It was a testament to the power of belief, respect, and the unwavering spirit of a people determined to shape their own destiny. The momentum that Burkina Faso had built with the Africa is Not charity initiative reached a new high during a special ceremony held in the center of Ouagadougou. Hundreds gathered: farmers, children, teachers, and international journalists who had followed the journey from the very beginning. The atmosphere was electric, filled with pride, hope, and a deep sense of accomplishment. President Ibrahim Traoré took the stage wearing simple, traditional Burkina Faso attire, a symbol of his connection to his people and their shared heritage. Looking out at the crowd, he was visibly moved. His voice, thick with emotion, carried across the packed square. Today, he said, we are not just celebrating statistics or policies. We are honoring the people, those whose hands and minds have built this nation. You are the true pillars of Burkina Faso. The crowd erupted in applause, some wiping away tears as the weight of those words sank in. Then, Traoré called upon Fatou, a young farmer who had become a symbol of hope and resilience in her community, to speak. Mr. President, Fatou said, her voice steady but emotional, you have given us something we thought was lost forever: our dignity. More importantly, you have shown us that we can inspire generations to come. The audience responded with a heartfelt standing ovation. The warmth and sincerity in Fatou's words, resonating deeply with all present. Traoré embraced her, knowing this moment was more than just a ceremony, was a powerful testament to gratitude, leadership, and belief. As the event wound down, A small child approached Traoré with a carefully restored old book that had belonged to Fatu's mother. Inside, written in elegant script, was a simple phrase: "Knowledge is the greatest inheritance we can leave." Traoré smiled softly, accepting the gift. It was a reminder that every act of kindness and every step toward self-reliance would echo through generations. Before leaving, Traoré knelt down to speak with a young girl clutching a brand new notebook. "How's school going?" he asked gently. She looked up shyly, then smiled brightly. "I'm learning so much, Mr. President. I want to be a teacher when I grow up." Watching this tender moment, a journalist scribbled in his notebook, "Today, in Burkina Faso, I saw the future of Africa. Future that honors its history, celebrates its heroes, and builds bridges of dignity for all." This celebration was more than a political achievement. It was a global symbol of hope and a shining example of what true leadership and community spirit can accomplish. As the ceremony came to a close and the crowd began to disperse, President Ibrahim Traoré took a moment to connect personally with those whose lives had been transformed. Among them was a young girl, around 8 years old, clutching a brand new notebook she had just received through the program's efforts. Traoré knelt down to her level and smiled warmly. "How's school going?" he asked gently. The girl looked up shyly, her eyes bright with excitement. "I'm learning a lot, Mr. President," she replied. "I want to be a teacher when I grow up." Traoré's smile deepened, touched by her simple yet powerful answer. He knew this was the true measure of success, not just policies or numbers, but the hope and dreams nurtured in the hearts of the next generation. Nearby, journalists scribbled notes and captured photographs, sensing that they were witnessing something rare and meaningful. One reporter wrote, "Today in Burkina Faso, I saw the future of an Africa that values its history, honors its heroes, and builds bridges of dignity for all." That sentiment echoed across social media, where stories of the country's transformation went viral. Hashtags like #respect for Africa, #leadership with dignity, and #future of Africa were shared widely, inspiring people around the world. Back in the United States, Senator J.D. Vance watched footage from the ceremony with a mix of admiration and reflection. Once skeptical of Traoré's vision, Vance had publicly acknowledged the impressive progress Burkina Faso was making. "What President Traoré is doing," he said during a televised interview, "shows that with dignity and determination, a nation can forge its own path." But for Traoré, the journey was far from over. He understood that real change took time and constant effort. During his visit to a rural village, he met Madou, a child who had just received a new school uniform and supplies. Her voice trembled with emotion as she said, "Mr. President, I wanted to show you that we are using the resources you helped provide to learn and grow." Traoré smiled, deeply moved. "You don't owe us anything, Madou," he said. "You're proving that when given the right tools, people can change their own lives." Behind the scenes, his team worked tirelessly to extend the program's reach. They partnered with local universities to provide technical training to farmers, improved infrastructure to ensure access to clean water and electricity, and supported education initiatives aimed at empowering young minds. Every small success was a building block toward a greater vision, Burkina Faso, and an Africa where people lived with pride, strength, and self-reliance. As the sun set over Ouagadougou, Traoré reflected on the transformation unfolding before him. It was more than politics, it was a movement of hearts and minds, a legacy of dignity that would inspire generations to come. The story of Ibrahim Traoré and Burkina Faso's journey quickly became a global symbol of leadership, grounded in gratitude and respect. It was more than a political success, it was a testament to the power of genuine connection and belief in people. Back in the United States, Senator J.D. Vance watched a live broadcast of one of the ceremonies celebrating the Africa is Not charity program. For the first time, he admitted openly, This man is something special. He's proving that Africa can do things on its own. Vance's acknowledgement spread widely, reinforcing the message that dignity and self-reliance could unite people across continents. Meanwhile, in Burkina Faso, Traoré continued his mission with unwavering dedication. On a visit to a small rural village, he met a young child named Madu. She held her new school supplies tightly, her voice shaking with emotion as she said, "Mr. President, this is for you. We're using the resources you helped provide to learn and grow." Traoré smiled warmly, touched by the moment. It was a reminder that his work wasn't just about policy, it was about lives transformed, futures rebuilt. The journey was far from over, but with every child like Madu, every farmer gaining new skills, and every community rising stronger, Burkina Faso was proving that true leadership means lifting people up and honoring their dignity. This was the legacy Ibrahim Traoré hoped to leave a nation and a continent proud, self-reliant, and ready to inspire the world.